I just awakened and completed the Apocalypse Sword God System mission and unlocked a broken effect that increases my skill power by 10,000%. Additionally, every sword skill I learn will instantly be upgraded to a triple S tier level. Also, my psychic ability is fully maxed out with a regeneration rate of 10,000%, and I can fully max out my attributes. Having completed the system mission, I felt a deep sense of relief. I vividly recalled how, in my previous life, I struggled to upgrade my skills to A tier, and now, with the Sword God system, I could elevate them to SSS level. Reading the system instructions, which told him not to tell people about the system, made me interested in wanting to get a hold of the skill book and try out the upgrade skill effect. The Grand Marshal congratulated me for awakening a double S level talent, telling me what reward would satisfy me. Still in a daze, wasn't focused on what the Grand Marshal had said with, "Come on, no dazzling off. Let's have a chat in my office, okay?" I replied, having no choice as I accompanied the Grand Marshal. Tea was being served, and its aroma was quite exquisite and expensive. Grand Marshal realized I was wronged and almost missed the investigation was assigned, and if the higher-ups approve, a third order will be assigned to me. And now, let's talk about your talent. I can't let the Grand Marshal know about the Sword God system, which will violate the system Ruel, so I told him I had a mental series the effect psychokinesis. The Grand Marshal knew that psychokinesis was rare and would surely require an expert from the capital for further advice. Observing this, I requested a sword skill book. With a wave of his hand, the Grand Marshal summoned his underling to bring the highest level sword skill book. After a while, the underling presented the book to me and said it was now mine. After receiving the skill book, the best course of action was to head home, which I informed the Grand Marshal of. He understood, knowing that I needed to notify my family of my awakening. The Grand Marshal assigned elite soldiers to ensure my security around the clock, guaranteeing absolute safety. Any issue was to be reported directly to him, including the reason for my almost absence to the test, regardless of who was involved. The 3 soldiers immediately bowed, accepting their orders. Arriving at the 6th refuge of the Tianfeng Saf Zone, a place filled with non-awakened residents, the arrival of military vehicles immediately caught everyone's attention. As such, a grand fleet was rarely seen. All eyes were on the pair of feet stepping out of the vehicle. It was me. I told the soldiers to remain there, and that I would go to my home on my own. Walking ahead along the pathway, the residents knew that anyone receiving such an escort had become someone important. Seeing my dear sister returning home after a long day scavenging for food from the trash, I called out her name, Ye Xian. Hearing my voice, she immediately became alert and then turned around, exclaiming, "Big brother," still burdened by the trauma of my past life. I inwardly apologized for not being able to protect her then. Gently hugging her, I reassured myself that in this life, no entity, no matter how big or strong, would be allowed to harm her in the slightest. "Brother, it hasn't even been a year yet. Aren't you supposed to be at the training camp?" she asked. "Your big brother is here, and I've completed the test. You can be at peace," I replied, tears streaming down my face. Noticing my tears, Yesian asked why I was crying. "Just happiness from seeing you after so long," I answered as we walked towards our humble home. Excited, Yesian shared that she had struck it big this time, gathering components that, once traded, might earn us a pancake to enjoy today. "Silly angel, we're going to have a feast today," I told her, making her even more excited. She asked if there would be plenty of meat, to which I replied, "As much as you want." As
A little while later,
Xian was surprised by the spread. My mother asked how the awakening training test had gone, since many of our neighbors had been asking about it. "I passed the test and am now an awakened," I replied. My mother was overjoyed, tears forming in her eyes, while my little sister excitedly shouted that I was truly the pride of the family. Yesian eagerly asked if we would have good meals like this every day, and I agreed with her. Later that night, after taking the dishes to the kitchen, I walked into the room and saw my mother and Yesian sleeping peacefully. Feeling happy and at peace, I knew it was time to get to business. I closed the door to my room and asked the system to proceed with helping me learn the skill book. Instantly, I gained 4 free attribute points, and the system detected the C-grade thrust skill, beginning the enhancement process. The thrust skill was upgraded to the SSS tier level skill known as Sword Tempest. Reading the Sword Tempest skill description, I realized that this was like having an ace right from the start. Even in my past life, I had never encountered something so extraordinary. What shocked me was that using the Sword Tempest required 4,500 psychic energy, which was outrageous. The current system classifies people's strength into 4 orders, from the 0th order to the 3rd order. Newly awakened individuals start at the 0th order with 15 determination points and an internal psychic energy of 1,500 points. The next stage, the 1st order, has a maximum of 20 determination points and 2,000 psychic energy points. The 2nd order includes 30 determination points and 3,000 psychic energy, while the peak, the 3rd order, has 48 determination points and 4,000 psychic energy. This meant that using Sword Tempest required me to be at least a mid-3rd order. Fortunately, the Sword God system allows me to use the skill once per day without consuming psychic energy. However, since the system forbids me from revealing my strength, I must avoid using Sword Tempest in front of others until I advance to the 2nd order. With the Grand Commander's pending report on the Seed Project, staying clear of them was the best course of action. The SSS tier skill excited me greatly, and I was eager to test it as soon as possible. Recalling that the military had a simulation zone made me even more excited, as such simulations are designed to test one's skills in a controlled but dangerous environment. Wearing my typical MC attire, I approached the Tianfeng test dungeon, hoping to test the Sword Tempest. I asked the administrator to open any low-level solo dungeon for me. The administrator, shocked to see me, the Yening, who had recently awakened a double S-tier talent, asked if I was alone and if no one was accompanying me. With concern, the administrator warned me that my strength made it very dangerous. I assured them that I was only going for a quick test and wouldn't take long. Reluctantly, the administrator pressed the button to activate the simulation and watched as I entered. Upon arriving in the test dungeon, I realized it was a simulation of a dungeon break. Noticing that the weapon of choice was a dagger, I reached out to the system storage to equip it, though it wasn't ideal. Looking at the dagger, I was pleased as it would be easier to test the skill with it. The monsters here seemed intelligent, waiting for the right moment to attack, which I quickly noticed. One particularly grotesque creature, resembling a Discord moderator's profile picture, charged at me. I stepped back to dodge the one-eyed freak's attack, then solidified my balance and brought down the dagger with great force, stabbing the creature's eye and instantly killing it. Moving to the next area, I found the dagger felt great in my hands and declared the hunt had begun.